Blog Talk Radio.
Divine All Blessed. You are now listening live to the Divine Prince, Pan-African spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Hoodoo Obeah Bokur, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, universal, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective, understanding that all is indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test, one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is my constant prayer, my mantra, affirmation, reverberation, reiteration, and my ever-living reality. And it is crucial to the very foundation of my understanding, my teaching, my walk, and my work along this divine, all-blessed life path and journey. It is how I, the Divine Prince, make sense out of all that we are challenged with here in our daily existence on Mother, Father, Earth. And it is my personal place of power and understanding. The place from where I begin and the place from where I realize and crystallize all my endeavor, understanding that I and I alone create and co-create my divine destiny, and I alone create and co-create my divine reality. And so it is. Ashe. Today is January 24th, 2013, and I am emanating and vibrating with you and for you live, virtually, verbally, cosmically, quantum, universally, from this working temple of the House of the Divine Prince, Tayameka, in this beautiful, enchanted, and historic city of New Orleans, Louisiana, the land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this spiritualist, Hoodoo, Obeah life path and journey, passing down the great Obeah stick along with the knowledge of the healing, life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, and minerals. But before my family began the journey in New Orleans, in Louisiana, in Mississippi, they began their journey as Gullah Geechee. And today we have the honor and the service of being present for Queen Quet and the Gullah Geechee Nation. The Association for the Study of African American Life and History, I like to say ASALA, is pleased to announce the recipient of the Living Legacy Award to be presented at its annual 87th Annual Black History Month Luncheon, February 23rd, 2013, at the Marriott Wardman Park Hotel in my home city. Yes, I grew up in the Maryland, D.C. area, Washington, D.C., and on this occasion, ASALA will announce the 2013 Black History theme, which is at the crossroads of freedom and equality, the Emancipation Proclamation and the March on Washington. With over 180 nominations, the award recipients are diverse, but more importantly to me personally is Queen Quet. And Queen Quet will be present with us today live here on Blog Talk Radio, The Power Lunch, along with Elder Charlie Town. And we most certainly invite you to not only listen, share, enjoy the history, enjoy the legacy, but support. And support by all means by doing something, getting actively involved. We have a pastime in America of sort of going through a lot of information. And the social networking sites allow for a lot of information to sort of flow freely. But it's time that we get a cup, get a pot, get a bucket, and begin to collect this resource and begin to utilize it and circulate it, not only in our own lives, but within the lives of our community. So we certainly are always humbled and honored. Queen Quet has been with us before, but this will be her first time with us in 2013, and indeed we're honored, as always, to have her present. So I'm going to take just one more short break, Queen Quet. I'm going to always present Congo Square and Kalamuya Salam, our elder master poet here in our community. And as soon as Congo Square is over, we will present you Queen Quet and Elder Town and the Gullah Geechee Nation. All is truly and indeed a blessing. Ashe.
Ashe.
Congo Square. The Omas Indians prepared this place for us centuries before our arrival, a sacred spot where corn festivals were celebrated. The Omas Indians prepared this place for us centuries before our arrival. Congo Square, a sacred spot where corn festivals were celebrated. And as the colonizers came, our hosts, the Omas Indians, they pushed aside our hosts. The colonizers came and pushed aside our hosts and introduced us in chains. And by the late 1700s, we somehow, recognizing the sacredness of Les Places de Congo, we somehow, and the how of our somehow persuasive methodologies is not clear at this moment. The how is not clear. How our persuasive methodologies work is not clear at this moment, but nevertheless, even as slaves, we crafted and created a space where we could be free to be we. And thusly we countered the sacrilegiousness of the French, giving great homage to our ancestors as well as giving praise and thanks to our red-blooded brothers and sisters. This is an oral libation toast to Congo Square, to Native Americans, to our ancestors who made a circle out of a square and gave us a way to stay ourselves, save ourselves from the transformatory ugliness of America, which refuses to recognize the spirituality of life, which refuses to recognize the spirituality of life and celebrates death with crosses and crosses, double and triple crosses, the middle passage, the first cross, Christianity, the double cross, and capitalism, the ultimate triple coup de grace cross of our captivity. But the terror of crosses notwithstanding, we sang, we beat, we be, we was and is. Hail Congo Square, Congo Square. Our African gods have not been obliterated. They have merely retreated inside the beat of us. Inside the beat of us, our African gods have not been obliterated. They have merely retreated inside the beat of us until we are ready to release them into a world that we recreate. A world heralded by the beating of black heart drums. Heart beat, heart beat, heart beat at this place, beat, heart beat, we beating place in new world space, beating being in place in new world, preserving our ancient pace. Our dance is the God walk, our music the God talk. First thing we do, let's get together. circle ourselves into community. No beginning, no end, connected together and singing, ringing, singing in a ring. Second, let's be original, aboriginal. Be what we were before we became what we are. Be bamboola dance, be banza music, and sing song words which have no English translation. Third, let us remember. Let us remember never to forget. Even when we can't remember the specifics, we must retain the essentials. Let us remember never to forget. Even when we can't remember the specifics, we must retain the essentials. The bounce, the blood flow, the feel, the spirit grow, energy must retain and pass on the essential usness that others want to dissipate, whip out of us. Whoa! But no matter how much of us they prohibit, no matter how much of us they prohibit, deep inside us is us. Deep inside us is us. Remains us inside and needs only the beat to set us free. The beat to free us. It is morning, a Sunday, a field without shade, but dark with the people black of us in various shades, eclipsing the sun with our elegance. We are centuries later now, and still this sacred ground calls us to remember, to beat, to be. We are centuries later now, and still this sacred ground calls us to remember, to beat, to be. Beat Congo Square. Be Congo Square. Beat, be. Beat, be. Beat, Congo Square. Be Congo Square. Be remember.
I say. Indeed, there was no more appropriate introduction to that for bringing forth Queen Quet. For indeed, it was in the sacred space of the Congo Square that I first met Queen Quet, and I'm truly honored to have had that meeting and that greeting and that coming together. It's changed my life in many ways that I don't even think she realizes yet. I don't think that I've completely realized yet. But I'm deeply touched by Queen Quet and her representation for and with the Gullah Geechee Nation. So I'm going to bring forward now Queen Quet.
Peace and blessings. I wanted to do.
All is indeed a blessing, indeed.
Yes. So glad for day back here for the power lunch.
Yes, we certainly appreciate you and are truly honored that you would be receiving this organization from ASALA, the Association for Study of African American Life and History, which was established in 1915, September of 1915, by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, and is the world's oldest learned society devoted to the research, education, and the status of culture and history of people of African descent. Dr. Woodson is the recognized father of black history, and ASALA carries forth the work of Dr. Woodson by speaking a fundamental truth to the world that African Americans and people of African descent are makers of history and co-workers with what W.E.B. Du Bois called the kingdom of culture. And I want to add to that we still are the makers of history, are still contributing, are still bringing forth, are still working to reveal our full glory, if you will, not only to the world, but even to and within ourselves. It's a lifelong learning process. It's not something that, we can confine to a class or a month in the year, if you will. But those of us who truly understand the value of our culture, of our roots, know that this is a everyday thing. And Queen Quet is every day.
Definitely so. Definitely so. Even as we speak, I'm sitting here reading messages that folks are steady sending in to me. So it's definitely an everyday thing. Yeah. And even the intro that you gave, that we must remember not to forget, that is critical. And I feel like that is an everyday thing, that we must remember not to forget, and we must remember to remind folks of all of the different things that our people have contributed to the world story, to our story and to his story. And that I truly believe in Ella's song that says, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
That's right.
And so it's so critical that, you started off with the drum, because I could definitely have simply stayed here and danced to the drum, because that drum is always that signal of remembrance for our ancestors wherever they are scattered throughout the African diaspora. And it's so powerful to be children of that African diaspora who do still remember, because I know that on yesterday I was having a real critical conversation with my assistant, and she was out and done about people who don't take the time to remember or don't seem to respect all of what people went through before we came into this realm that we're in right now, and in this cycle of life that we're in right now, how many people fought and died and, had to stand up against various forms of discrimination against us. And Hannah knows that when we the crack we teeth like this and things like that, Hannah still got people that discriminate against we know. And so we still have people who don't accept expressions of Africanness, even within our language and our traditions as Gullah Geechees. And so it's definitely critical to my spirit that every day I do something that not only tries to further empower myself in understanding, because my favorite proverb is, wisdom is the principal thing. So get wisdom, but in all thy getting, get understanding. But I don't feel that understanding is to be gotten, to be kept to yourself. It's there so you can share it with others. And so I definitely thank you for having this broadcast with us so that we can have that opportunity to, again, share not only with the family, with Danyona and Nola, but with those around the world that are tuning into the broadcast, because it's definitely that time for that drum to sound and for us to remember, not to forget.
Yes, yes. And indeed, we welcome you also, Elder Carly Town. We certainly appreciate you. Know that your mic is also open and you're free to speak.
Okay. I just want to pay homage to my ancestors and to God. And as I sit here and I remember at the poem that says, deep inside is us. That's really, really profound, because deep inside is us, and we just have to go within ourselves, pull it out, and make it work for our people. And I'm just so honored to be here with Queen Quet, and especially to be here to share the honors that she is sharing with where Osala is giving her, because she is Carter G. Woodson is speaking directly to Queen Quet. Say, well done, my faithful servant. So I just wanted to say I'm really appreciative to you, brother, for bringing this kind of broadcast on, and I'm just always excited. But I just want you to know that when you said, let us remember, it's these times that I really reflect on my ancestors that did so much here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, Denmark Vesey, and September Clark. All these people sacrificed so much. So today, like I said earlier, I pay homage to some of those people, and I appreciate, being on the show.
Well, you're most certainly always welcome, and we're grateful to have you present in time and energy and spirit. And we invite our listeners to call in and listen in at area code 347-215-8967. Do please be active part of the conversation. Queen Quet is here to take any of your questions, comments, offerings, and we most certainly do appreciate you. So, Queen Quet, if you will, please speak freely and give us a little understanding of how this process even came about. Was it a surprise, or was it something that you may have saw coming? How does that work with you?
It definitely wasn't anything I saw coming in this instance. I often get visions, but this wasn't one I saw coming. What was powerful is that the last year was actually when the theme for Black History Month focused around Black women that had made history. And so the executive director, Sylvia Cypress of Asala, had said to me prior to that theme coming up the year before, we were at, earlier that year, we were at the White House conference together, and she said, well, Queen Quet, you need to be at the Asala conference. She said, and in fact, I'm not talking about this year, I'm talking about every year, because it had been quite some time since I had presented at one of their conferences. And so I said to her, well, I did get the email, and I saw what the theme is. I'm considering submitting a paper, but we'll see. She said, no, you need to go on and do that. And so just then one of my other colleagues that I work with on a lot of national parks issues, he then was saying, yeah, Queen Quet, we want to try to see if we can bring you and some others in to do a panel for us that relate to, women, Black women in particular, and, the history of America and that. But they were trying to work out financial things and all this other stuff to see what they could do. So I said, well, I'll tell y'all what, I had something in mind. Let me speak to some people. And I then reached out to Elder Carly Town. I reached out to Dr. Elisa Rizzo, who has worked a lot on transnational identities of Gullah Geechees, and said, well, would y'all like to do a panel where we could focus on the Gullah Geechee Oman? Because we know that in a lot of these intellectual Black history circles and these intellectual history circles, people do not still give the respect due to Gullah Geechee culture. And so we needed to make sure that in this land of, as Elder Town would call them, the academe, that they then recognize the value of even what others might call just Big Mama them, Daddy Mama them, and so on, and not that everybody had to be somebody who has a book written about that individual. But that doesn't mean that their contributions have been any less than anybody else. So sure enough, when we submitted, we got accepted right away for that. Well, the next thing, Asala sends out different things that they're doing and so on, and it said there's going to be, they wanted nominees for women who had who people felt were living legacy. Well, there were folks that said, Queen, this is you all day. You know, so definitely you need to be nominated for this. So a series of letters of nomination went in from different people, from folks in my organization, Elder Town's organization, the Gullah Geechee Angel Network, various people that were around the country, and they had to get information about what I had done, basically what they call supporting documents. So the file that ended up leaving the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition was 21 pages of supporting documents by itself. That had nothing to do with just the application. There were 21 supporting documents, which were primarily newspaper articles of various things that over the years I had participated in or had done, or news features and that kind of thing. But at the same time, ASALH is a national organization. Like you said, they are the ones carrying forth the vision of Carter G. Woodson. They've been around since 1915. So, no, I didn't automatically see it, and maybe it's because my ego is not that big. I didn't automatically say, well, good, somebody nominate me, I got this. No, it was never that. It was just even the respect of seeing copies of letters when people would CC back to our office and say, here's my letter. The things that people wrote amazed me. Because it always surprises you how others see you, you know, and to say that they see your life as such a valuable thing that they would want to nominate you for a Living Legacy Award. Most times you don't get any honors till you're dead. I always tell people that. You ain't dead, right? You ain't done nothing till you're dead. That's when folks want to name stuff after you and all kind of things. But when you're alive, and unfortunately in the black community this goes on all too often and all too much, we don't respect what people are doing while they're there. When they're gone, then we're like, oh, wow, so-and-so used to do this and so-and-so used to do that. So to say Living Legacy, I thought that was brilliant for ASALH to want to do that, because they don't have to. They could just as soon go through the Journals of Negro History and then later became the Journal of Black History and pull out people they've written about and say, we just going to honor them people, you know. So to say, no, we want to honor people that are right now making history was outstanding. So when Elder Town and us flew to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania last October, I believe it was, I actually was like, I had already given up on this thing because I hadn't heard anything back. No one heard anything back. So we figured at their luncheon they'd announce who it was, but it wasn't going to be me because no one said anything to me. And so here it is, we go, we present, we have an outstanding session and everything, and we get out of there fast. We had to leave Pittsburgh, which there's a Queen Quet Day in Pittsburgh, so I was glad to be back there, but I didn't have a lot of time there because I had to get on and get to St. Croix to be with the Maroons. And so here it is, all that's over with. The year of 2012 is about to end. Here comes this email, congratulations. You received the Living Legacy Award. I'm like, what Living Legacy Award? I know this can't be from ASALH. Sure enough, it was. And so they were like, we're giving the award in February 2013. I had no idea. I called Elder Town. I called other people who nominated me, wrote them, thank y'all. We can start shouting. They are giving me this award. I hadn't even fully read their letter, I don't think, when I let folks know what was going on. And when I went back and read their press release and saw that 180 nominations were made and only 18 women had been chosen, that was amazing.
That was.
Yeah, and for me, the blessing is not that, oh, my name's going to go on the award. The blessing is that Gullah Geechee culture now is being elevated by such an organization as this.
Yes, definitely. And Queen, I was, as you were saying that, I just see all the times that I've traveled with you and see all the work that you have done. And like I said earlier, well done, excellent.
Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent.
Thank you,
and as we move forward into the year, there's so many more things that God is going to bless the Gullah Geechee Nation with. And I stand here as I bear witness that God is with us and that the ancestors is guiding us And that with Queen Quet's guidance, we are moving. We are moving. No matter what, we are moving in the right direction.
Definitely. Definitely. And even as Brother Divine Prince mentioned at the beginning with meeting me in Congo Square, very often the images of that gathering of the children of Mother Africa in Congo Square when the Gullah Geechee Nation journeyed there to reconnect with our Geechees that are there in Louisiana, that people for years have, tried to denigrate for being Geechee. That was a powerhouse connection.
That's right.
To be in that same space that our ancestors shouted in, that our ancestors gave tribute and homage in, that were their place of freedom where those drums sounded. Those moments can never be forgotten, and definitely we have never forgotten it. All of us that made that cross-country, cross the South, however you want to say it, journey through the bayous to get out there to where our people are still. That energy that we had traveling there and then connecting with our people there and having Geechee show up there saying, you know what, my people was originally from South Carolina too, but they moved out here like 2 generations ago, but they didn't tell us who the family was still out there in the Gullah Geechee Nation. I'm so glad y'all are here because now I'm reconnected. That kind of power and that kind of energy has been an ongoing blessing. It's like a ripple, when you throw that, you skip stones on the water, or you skip shells on the water, and that ripple just goes out. That ripple has continued to extend out, and so I just give thanks, and I always love the fact that whenever I write to Divine Prince and say something on Facebook or anywhere like that, he always writes back, all is a blessing, because it truly is. All is a blessing, and the continued journey and the continued connection with our people is just that. It is a blessing. And so truly, Elder Town, I receive every word that you're saying in terms of the continued blessings for the entire Gullah Geechee Nation and all of our people, wherever they be. Because Hunter know that we be Gullah Geechee anointed people. So definitely the anointing continues to flow.
That's exactly. I can hear. I remember when we were at Congo Square, we were in a circle, and I still remember this lady. She had on a white dress, and she said, I'm Gullah Geechee. I hadn't been home in a long time. And when I looked into her face, I saw myself. So, it's just a reflection of who we are. And it just reflects to us when even, everywhere we go, we see ourselves. In Congo Square, the word itself is telling us who we are. Congo Square.
Right.
And so much of the Gullah Geechee symbolism is ingrained in New Orleans. It's ingrained in hoodoo, and people just have no connection to the root. I still put a fresh broom over my door every year.
Yes.
I still keep a horse over my door every year. Those are distinctively Gullah Geechee traditions,
right?
That have been relabeled as other things, if you
right.
But we need to not only bring the awareness present, but bring the level of activity present that keeps the vibration going, that keeps the history going. Remembering is crucial to me, but at some point we have to do something with the remembering. We have to then become a part of something, contribute to something.
Right.
And for me personally, that's my challenge right now. How do we motivate our community? How do we move our fans into active participants? Me and Queen Quet talked about this the other day. We respect the fans, okay, but at some point a fan has to become a participant, a member, a contributor, some active role. I often do these shows, like now, and the switchboard is full, and people are listening all over the place. Queen Quet, you do a show. We see the numbers. We know people are listening to our show, but we can't get them to call in. We can't get them to participate. And I'm not sure what that is. So maybe you and the elder can teach me something today about how to deal with that and to move forward with that energy being so prevalent right now.
Well, you know, it's interesting because this dynamic of being a watcher and not an active participant, I believe, has spread, especially in Western society. People have become very sedentary, and they're what I call the TV generation, because it's not just when you're doing a live broadcast on the radio that, unless you're talking about, you know, some reality show stuff and somebody fighting some negative thing that happened in the community, then you get people who are upset right now, or they just got a bone to pick with the other sex or whatever. They'll call in all day on that. But when you're talking about positive things that are educational, that are uplifting, you have so many of our people that are thirsting for that. As Life Jennings said, they're spiritually dehydrated. So it's like they are there and they're hearing you and they're seeing you, but they almost can't believe that they are. Just like on yesterday, I was on a radio broadcast with North Carolina yesterday, and the brother gave out the phone number more than one time and said more than one time, Queen Quet is only going to be on the air for another 3 minutes, so it's your chance, call in. These folks did not ring the phone until the brother said, okay, well, Queen Quet, go and say your final words. While I'm in the middle of my final word, the phone starts ringing off the hook. So he says, Queen, of course you know they're calling now. I said, I knew that was going to happen. So he took one call, and the sister wanted to thank me for being on the air and for sharing all that I said, because she so agreed with everything I said, and that she wanted to make sure that I knew that she was going to personally now seek to find out more information about the Gullah Geechee Nation and to come participate in what was going on. Well, after that caller, of course, the gentleman went on and let me come off the phone because he was going to move on to other things on his broadcast. Well, he comes on Facebook later and tells me the phone rang for the whole next 30 minutes that he was on the air, because everybody now wanted to call in and say how happy they were he had me on the air and how much they learned. So there's this delay, because if you're spiritually dehydrated, you're weak. So you can't automatically think straight, and you can't automatically get up and make that move. So you want to make the move, but then you're like, can I make the move? I'm not sure. Can we really reach out to each other like that? I'm not sure, because people have gotten so much into seeing each other on TV where you can't connect to people. So when we're on the radio stations and people say, well, this is your chance. You really can connect right now. They don't make the move. It's like their minds just stop. Like, no, that can't be true. I can't really call that number and reach them. And then when they snap out of it and they call, it's a little too late.
Exactly.
Now, you know, we're going to talk about that a little bit, because Queen Cat and I talked about how being active is akin to being African.
True.
And how we lost that connection to doing things. But I want to go to my local caller, 504, Peace and Blessings. Your line is open. Who's with us?
Oh, wow. Gullah. How you doing, Divine Prince? This is Noble Pop. Peace, Queen Quet.
Peace and blessings, my brother. How honored to do?
How y'all doing, everyone? Peace and greetings.
Peace and greetings, Brother Noble.
Yes, peace to everyone that's on the panel. I'm basically listening and I'm chiming in, and the information is really good that y'all putting out for today.
Appreciate you calling in.
Yes, really good
to hear your voice.
Yes.
And we hope that you will stay with us and be a part of the conversation. We were right now talking about how do we move people from a place of remembering to actually doing something. And we were just about to get into a discussion of what we may think that is. Now, for me, I think it's as simple as what we're eating and also the lack of activity.
Exactly.
I agree.
And, you know, for me, I think it's people have been taught to be spectators. When you go to school, you aren't taught to be a leader. You're taught to, if you're drawing something, they give you a coloring book, you color within that line. But it's people have to learn how to create and come outside of the lines and do what thus says the Lord, do what they have to do to make this thing work, because we have this idea that somebody else is going to come outside of ourselves and rescue us. But you have to be the person that creates your environment. And people have gotten away from that. They became much more of a pastoral society. They are being led. And the way they are being led is not in a direction of self-sufficient or self-determination. It's away from that. So people like Queen Quet is an example of lead by example, a doer of the word. And we have to encourage people to become that more by doing more things that we're doing. And we're doing a lot, but it takes more than just us to do it. So we just have to continue to press on and press on. And, you know, Marcus Garvey said that he will send those ancestors to help us. And I think that's what's happening now. That's my take on it.
Chicago caller, your line is now open as well. 773, who's calling?
Once again, Brother Divine, this is Brother Ezra from Chicago. How you doing, my brother?
All is indeed a blessing.
All right. To all the sisters that are on the line, peace and blessings to you all.
Peace and blessing.
Peace and blessings.
Yeah, Noble Calls also with us still.
Great. I got a couple of comments real quick, briefly. When you talk about us, we, African Americans, we're suffering, man. It's like a spiritual drought. And not only do we suffer from this spiritual drought, we also have what I call historical amnesia as well. And I find in that growing up as a child, I was taught a lot of things, and it was taught to me by my grandparents because it was taught to them by their parents. And then as I grow and I matured, I realized that all the things that they told us after investigation and research, found out that the majority of the stuff they told us were lies. But we hold fast to those lies because that's what we were given. And somebody made a good point about we're waiting for something or someone to drop down from the sky to save us and deliver us. That's the whole waiting for, the Lord, waiting for Jesus or Yahshua or whoever it may be, drop down from his clouds and, to help us or to save us. And I always like to use our brothers and sisters in Haiti as a prime example because they didn't wait for no one. They got together, they performed a ceremony, and what did they do? They defeated one of the mighty armies, militaries in this Western Hemisphere, which was the French army. But they didn't wait for anyone. They didn't wait for Jesus. They didn't wait for Allah, or they didn't wait for Buddha. You see, so the power is within us, and definitely connected with those ancestral forces is definitely something that we need to bring back to our people, and we need to remove the mythology from it. We need to remove the spookism from it. All that negative stuff. We need to remove that from our culture and our way because our people are afraid of that. My wife, being from the Caribbean, and she know the power of voodoo, but it's so for her it's so negative when I talk about it. She always tell me, "Oh, you don't know what you're messing with. Don't get involved with that. There's some scary stuff, blah blah." But that's part of her culture. But she's scared of. She's afraid of it because whether it be the media or what she may experience when she was in the island. Some people doing negative things negative things to people just to get back at them. But that's not what voodoo is. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's hard to try to remove that negative stigma or image on our culture, and because our people are so afraid of that. But that's where our power lays. Our lives right in that in those ancestral forces, the Vodun, the Abu Sam, the Congo, Palo, whatever you call it. That's where our power and strength lies in that. And I don't know how we're going to get that back to our people, and especially here in Chicago. I wish I could move back to the South, and that's what my plans is to move back down South because here in Chicago, we don't have that. I've searched, I've looked, but there's nowhere I can go, credible places or people I can trust that's practicing our African spirituality. So it's like a drought here.
I see.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, my brother. I was in Chicago last year, and I've been coming back and forth to Chicago the last couple of years. It seems that folks keep bringing me back once or twice a year now to Chi-Town. and I do know from the living experience just what you're talking about. And it's not as isolated as simply getting them back to traditional African spirituality. It's just spirituality, period, that I've seen was a drought. The last time there, and I do have a show called Gullah Geechee TV, which you can pull up on YouTube, and you'll see that even when I conducted the libation ceremony to open up the conference, which was the Chicago Urbane Conference, people didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to interact. They didn't know how to react. When I even asked these folks later, okay, can I get somebody up in here then that's from the church? Anybody in here, usher? Nobody could raise a hand. I said, do I have a preacher, a deacon? Do I have somebody from the mosque here? The people sat there, looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. I said, okay, now y'all bothering me now. I'm going to need to go in my bag, get my oil out. I need to start a line and lay on hands. And they started laughing, but I was really serious because I was like, this is an all-black audience I'm talking to right now. Why are y'all reacting like none of these terms mean anything to you? I wouldn't dare have asked for a Bible out in the room or nothing. You know, when I'm asking for basic things to black folks, and y'all looking at me like, what's she talking about? So here it was that it was at the end of the day. The conference went on for 8 hours, and at the end of the day, here comes a brother talking to ministers and what the ministers need to do and all that. And that's part of the problem. We are the ones we've been waiting for. You are not supposed to wait for this savior mentality each time to say, well, we got to go out and wait till somebody else come and lead you. When you going to get up and do something yourself?
Exactly.
And so, I mean, it doesn't matter what form of spirituality you practice. That is in there every time. God expects you to do something.
Right.
And then there's more that will be done thereafter. You have to enact your faith. You have to live that out. So when you talk about a spiritual desert and when we talk about being spiritually dehydrated, I have seen that, and unfortunately, I've seen it spreading instead of being reduced. And I'm going to say this to you. Moving down south is not the answer, because if the mentality and the mindset is still going to be that has become as hard as the concrete that makes up our urban jungles, then nothing changes. We have numerous people come from up north to down south almost on a Hajj every year. Eldertown will tell you. They come to our festivals, they come to the community, and they act worse than any Anglo people that ever come in the community, because the Anglo people come with their minds open, their spirits open, trying to learn, trying to understand things, wanting to see what they can take back. Here go our people, like you brought up, my brother. They have these stigmas. They have not only stigmas against African traditional spiritual practices, they have them against language. So they hear Gullah, oh, my God, what is that? Oh, no.
Absolutely.
They have it against dark-skinned people still. I mean, there's a lot of post-traumatic slave syndrome that we're dealing with, that if we don't get down to real business and deal with the heart of the matter and start to work and engage with one another and really get behind closed doors and deal with these issues spiritually and mentally and intellectually and every other way that we can so that we're holistic people, we're going to continue to have this desert spread, and there won't be an oasis. So I'm glad you called.
Isn't that it, though? Isn't it mental health?
Yes, it is.
Mental health, and again, it's with what we're eating. It's not just what we're seeing on TV, what's in the media. It's in how we are treating the very temple of our body that affects how we perceive things and how we're able to call up or not call up the very energies that we need to get things done. And I think that is, by design, being worked against us. And the more we embrace the quote-unquote Western culture, the deeper the spell gets, the worse off things get. Now, for me, I was born in Chicago. I still got brothers and sisters in Chicago. For me, moving south was the answer. Now, I agree with Queen Quet. My mind was already moving in that direction. But the weather change was helpful for me. That extra dose of vitamin D was helpful for me. being able to get out and walk and exercise and do things that are limited in Chicago for, 3 or 4 months out of the year. I think it's in Chicago right now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's 73 degrees in Chicago, in New Orleans. So for me, that made a difference. Getting back to what my grandmama used to do, growing herbs in my yard, growing fruits, growing vegetables. It was therapeutic for my mind, for my spirit. It reconnected me to the ancestors, but it also began to work on the physical level and on the cellular level. You know, being able to move around. Me and Queen Quet talked about this a few days ago, about making things, doing things, walking there, carrying it, lifting it. You know, all these, things have been denigrated in this society, and we're looking for comfort. And the comfort ultimately kill us.
Exactly.
You know, they're not really comforts at all. It's an illusion of a comfort. Because if it's going to kill you, then it's not a comfort.
Right. I agree. I agree with you 100% on that. And what, today was, this morning I got up at 6 o'clock. And right now I'm at the place in my life where I've got to do what I got to do. And so I got up 6 o'clock this morning and we went and visited some businesses. And we sat down and talked to those businesses. And we told them, we have got to do something. We have got to get to the table, or we will be on the menu. Everybody agreed. Now the next step is to start educating them more about who they are and whose they are. And like you said, get back to some of our traditional things that we've been doing, where we had everything in our communities, and when those things were disbanded, we become distant and disconnected. Right. So now we have to get back those things, because in the city of Charleston, there's only 12,000 black folks left there. When we came there, we were more than the majority. We were the majority.
Absolutely.
So those things, and when you leave those places where your church or where your mosque or where your traditional learnings are, you kind of leave those things behind, and you move somewhere else, and you have to take on that. Then you come into this thing what we call the concrete jungle, because there's no more trees and it's just concrete, everybody for themselves. So we have to get back from the individualism to the collective, being a collective mind, and that's what the Gullah Geechee Nation is about.
Is Queen Quet on the line?
I'm here.
Hey, Queen Quet, how you doing?
I'm well. How you doing?
I'm great. I watch a lot of your videos. I admire you so much, and I love what you're doing.
I appreciate that.
And I also have Gullah Geechee ancestry, so definitely I love it, and I feel the connection, the vibe. When I see your videos and your lectures and things like that. So I congratulate you.
Glad for you. Where about your roots come from?
Well, my grandmother and my great-great-grandparents, they migrated from Virginia, South Carolina, down into what they call the Mississippi Delta. But our roots lies in Virginia and South Carolina.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, great. Oh, Brother Prince. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say to Brother Prince, see, now you got one converted right there, because this brother is saying he watched the shows. Now he's falling in. So our work is not in vain.
That's exactly
it just take a lot. It just take a lot of us to stay in this vineyard and get it done. But the brother right here is a living example that there are those who actually are active. So go ahead, my brother.
Right. I was about to say, when I talk about the spiritual journey here in Chicago, especially for someone like me who done I spoke with Brother Divine about this a while back. I've done the research. I know who we are as a people. I know what my African roots are. And then here I am struggling to get back to that. I would love to be a practitioner of one of our spiritual systems. But once again, here in Chicago, either you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, or you're a Black Hebrew Israelite, practicing Judaism. That's all that we have. And these systems keep us bound into these ideologies of the Western civilization, because you leave one, you go to the other, but it's all interconnected. when you're dealing with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the patriarchs and all that. But it's like a crutch, and see, those things are like a crutch to our people, and we can't see outside of that. So we stuck in that mentality, and the African spiritual system are looked down upon, frowned upon, and it's hard for me, especially for me, to get back to that when there's no one here, or a priest I can go to, or a Babalawo, or whoever it may be that I can go to practice our system, or get maybe even get initiated. It's just not here in Chicago.
Yeah, again, I understand. I spent my last year in Chicago homeless and struggling to find any kind of support for what I was and what I was doing. You have a few choices in Chicago, and then you're up against the clock in terms of the winter is always going to come. That's one thing that's consistent, is that winter is coming. So I think that has a great effect on the culture there. Now, I'm not anti-Chicago. Don't get me wrong. I love Chicago. But it's not somewhere that is compatible with who I am today.
Right, I agree with you. I agree.
At some point, you're going to have to make some choices at some point. But as Queen Quet said, it's going to start at the conscious level. It's going to have to start at the mind level. For me, I'm an artist. I'm creative. I'm beading right now for Mardi Gras and Carnival. I do a lot of things with my hands. That's a very African thing. So there's a certain sense of security for me in that. I may not be rich. I may not always have money, but I can make something. I can create something. And I never had that sense of security while I was in Chicago. Working a job, trying to pay all those bills, trying to pay that electric bill, that gas bill. It just got to be too much. Here, I can supplement my income, with my craft, and it's accepted in the community. Congo Square is church for me. That is church for me. That is my sacred connection, if you will, to the ancestors and to the community. If you're strong enough and you think you can do that, by all means, be the one to create that in Chicago. But if Spirit is telling you to move, I suggest you move. For me, the worst thing that can happen is for you to resist Spirit, which is what I was doing, and have to get forced out, rather than decide, what, I'm just going to do what's healthy for me right now. Right. Noble Paul, are you still with us, beloved?
He might have gotten cut off when I got cut off, too.
Okay. We invite each and every one of you who is with us on the phone lines at area code 347-215-8967. If you do have a question, comment, or request, press the number 1 on your telephone keypad, and we will be more than happy to be with you. I'm going to take a short intermission, Queen Quet.
All right, and then when we come back, I want to address something that you said in terms of what happened with your journey in Chicago.
Okay, all of the blessing.
Oguye, are, Ogunde, are, Ogunde.
Arere, Aguanileo, Ogun Maribo, Ye, Ogun Arere, Ocalawede, Ogun Susulona, Bokum. Bobo hará un toracia se abalo, Ogun en Belezo, los Dumare, Ogun Rele, Cumbese, Ogun, Ana María Mendoza, Ucañengo Milana, Ogun Toyego y Fredo Jaramillo. Padre mío celestial, libre nos di cubano Arayé, Tilla, Eleno Funfun. Ainá, Boboso Bullo, Pa' que nos dé ireo mo, ireo más, iré de guanto loco, salud, tranquilidad, paz, desenvolvimiento. Padre mío, todas las cosas que usted tenga en el plano de esta arapa, este es su homo, hecho panible. Y guapo y boro caleno, dele la bendición para que usted con su manto cubre de todas las cosas malas que hay en el plano de esta tierra, que nadie se pueda librar, usted se lo quita. Nunca macheta la cura, la bendición de mi madrino papi acá, toda la ciencia, caleno, y ahí es un criminal de su barrio con un mocha.
Ashe. We are enjoying our conversation with Queen Quet and Elder Carly Town, Noble Pod, the Gullah Geechee Nation, and, of course, our callers and listeners. We most certainly appreciate each and every one of you. We invite you to be a part of the conversation at area code 347-215-8967. Please do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad when you are ready with your question, comment, or request. Everyone who has previously been introduced, your lines are all open, and please do feel free to contribute liberally. All of the blessings. Queen Cat.
Yes, Brother Divine Prince, I think it's a critical thing that's been part of a discussion that Elder Town and our representative, Glenda Simmons-Jenkins, and some of my assistants and others we've been talking about lately about what Gullah Geechees have. And, you know, a lot of times when you live something, as I always say to people, when you live something, you don't study it. The other thing I realize is that when we live someplace or have something, we more often not take that thing for granted. And we kind of suspect everybody has that until someone like the brother who was just talking that's in Chicago starts to express their journey and where they are, and then they make you realize and recognize, no, that's not the same thing we have. And when you mentioned what happened and where you were and even being homeless in a situation, that all boils down to the lack of support. When you don't have a support system, you don't have a solid foundation, then people tend to spiritually wander. And that's what tends to lead people into situations of homelessness, even spiritual homelessness. They might have a building to go into, but their spirit is wandering around trying to connect. And so here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, we've lately been really examining this thing, that one of the things that we constantly reinforce is support for one another. That if you haven't heard from someone in a couple of days, somebody going to ask you, have you heard from Elder Town? Mm-hmm. No, I ain't heard from Elder Town. Well, why you ain't heard from her? You ain't check on her? You need to check. You know, and so now it's going to be a definite initiation of you must get on the phone, and if she don't answer the phone, you better be heading to the house or sending someone to the house to check on her so that we make sure all is well with her. And so then when you arrive there, she don't have to tell you, oh, she needs something. Your spirit should be interlinked with her enough to say, this is what she needs. And you go ahead and you provide that to the best of your ability, whether that right then is that mental support, that spiritual support, or a plate of food. Mm-hmm. You are going to be in that position. And then you let others in the community know, hey, hold on a minute. You know, so-and-so ain't doing too good here. You need to make sure You go by there, make sure you call, make sure you check, until folks are seeing this person out and about again, like you said, out and being active, out in the community, walking around, doing things, working in the garden, out in the field, working with the kids outside, where we actually see them engaged. If we get to the point where we're disengaged, we realize that there is a spiritual disconnection happening, which leads to, as one might call it, a reprobate mind, leads to what people are calling mental illnesses and other things that a lot of times are really spiritual disconnections. And that has unfortunately happened to a lot of our people who have been forced to migrate to urban centers around the world because they migrated there to get work. They migrated there to get paid. They got there, and then in those places promoted Western individualism and no real spiritual foundation or place of connection like you have Congo Square there. Like we have all the places where we shout and do libations here on the coast. We could just go to the shore, to the Atlantic Ocean, and stand right there in the same places our ancestors stood and reconnect. We can go to the marsh and breathe it in, and that can revitalize you. Every Gullah Geechee I know who moved anywhere else will tell you there reaches a point where they feel like they just got to get home and smell the water. And they'll say to you, that sounds crazy, don't it? It's like, no, it doesn't, because all of us know what that is. And that's a whole process of reconnection. It's almost like the Atlantic Ocean and the marsh is a libation that you got to just breathe in and take in so that your soul can be renewed, so that, again, you're no longer spiritually dehydrated. And so I think it's critical when you all both mentioned, brother, what he's going through now and what you already went through in your journey, that's the kind of dialogues we need to be having in our community, instead of these fake it till you make it dialogues where people fronting like everything is always well and everything always been well, so I ain't going to say nothing is bad. No, that's why I don't like the statement, it's all good, because it's not all good. And until we start to face the things that are not good in our community, those things are going to continue to be perpetuated. We got to speak up and share and be in this circle and check on one another and help to try to build each other's spirits back up.
Absolutely. And even from an economic standpoint, it just makes more sense to me that this is the time to repatriate South. This is that time. And the things that we could build, the communities that we could develop within the Gullah Nation, within Louisiana, within Mississippi, where the majority of our people are. Even when you look at the numbers, the majority of our people are still in the South. They're just being neglected. They're just being ignored. They're being overlooked, particularly in terms of politics, where the face of these southern states is often the senator, the governor, the city council, and we forget that the majority of the people be you and me. There's a disconnect there. My money goes much further in New Orleans than it ever did in Chicago, and I don't have a problem saying that. I don't have a problem confronting people, on that. Why are you spending so much to deal with all of that? It doesn't make any sense. And that's why for me, because I'm solution-oriented, and for me, my solution is I got to confront that mental health. There's something going on at the mental health level that we're not
addressing.
Right.
Yes, there's a balance in our understanding.
Hey, Brother Divine, can I make a comment, please?
Absolutely.
Sister Queen Quet just made a good point about that spiritual wandering, because that's exactly what's happening to me right now. And I was in dialogue with Brother Divine months back when I told him about this dream I had been initiated, palm trees. It was on some beach or something to that effect, and I was going through initiation. And this was at a time when I was searching my heart out. But now here in Chicago, where I'm at, and been around relatives and family, they push you in a different direction, because now I'm pursuing a degree in medicine, get into medical school. And ever since I've been focusing on that, all the dreams I had stopped. All the spiritual connections that I had with the dreams, or my altar. I used to go to my altar all the time, and I had ancestors come to me do some miraculous things at my altar that I couldn't even explain. And now since I've been pursuing this degree, nothing. It's like the ancestors are not speaking, or it's that I'm not listening. But all those things that were happening back then, it's not happening now. And I see it right now. If you all remember the movie Roots with what was the brother's name? Kunta Kinte.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when his wife would always tell him, stop messing with that African mess. Leave the African man. He was trying to teach his daughter who she was and where they come from.
Yeah.
And because he got so being in America, and I guess his spirit was so broken by his wife and being in America, I guess he either stopped, and that's how I feel right now. Being around among family and relatives, and every time I always talk about Africa, and, this is who we are, and this is what I want to do. I want to get the initiation, whether it be for my family or even my wife. Push me to medical school. No, you need to be a doctor. You need to go to school. You're bright. You're smart. This is what you need to be doing. But my soul is telling me this is what I need to be doing. So now I got this mental conflict going on where trying to please and satisfy family, be successful and have a nice career. But then there's a spiritual calling or the spiritual lacking of that just draw me closer and closer to that spirituality. But then you got the physical carnal flesh of mine push me back toward the Western education. So I'm in a great conflict right about now.
Well, my brother, I'll tell you this. I feel like as soon as you said the part of your dream that you just revealed here, that's a journey that you have to literally make. You are not going to really feel the reconnection and the return of the visions you've been having until you actually get to a shoreline that looks like the one that you've seen. I know you don't have that shoreline on the Great Lakes, so that sounds like you probably are going to end up in the South somewhere here to make that kind of connection. And I feel like when you do stand in that spot, when it's divinely ordered for you to be in that spot, there's going to be more that's going to come into your soul than you can ever imagine. And the thing that you're dealing with, you've already encapsulated it. You're definitely in the right field because medicine should really be about healing, not about practicing.
Right.
You have already diagnosed yourself that it's a spiritual conflict that you're having. And see, when you're in spiritual conflict, you have stress. When you have stress, you cannot get clear visions.
You sure can.
So the thing is, even where you are right now in Chicago, you are going to have to find that place that is an oasis, that is a point of connectivity where you do feel at peace there. And trust me, whether that's walking along the Great Lake, whether that's going outside the city, like going toward Wisconsin or someplace else, that you can just get out in the countryside and breathe, not think about having to do the schoolwork, not think about no concrete, not think about any of the money you got to make or none of that, and just relax, you'll start to get those visions back. You'll start to feel that peace again, but it's about balance. And right now it just sounds like you're not being allowed to really stay in the kind of balance that you were once in. And there is a sister that happens to be in Chicago right now. I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but if you are, okay, excellent. You can look up Sister Quet Nefer, look up A Soulful Touch Wellness, A Soulful Touch Wellness. In fact, on the Gullah Geechee Nation Facebook fan page, we just posted she's going to have a session tonight online and everything to let people understand more about building up their immune system. So she is a Gullah Geechee sister, native from the root, from the heart, from the islands here, that actually is in Chicago right now doing a lot of healing practices. She's a masseuse, and she does a lot of things with yoga, Kemetic yoga, to also help people release some of these toxins and rebalance. So if you can, I would say to you that she's someone that just happens, that God just has it, that she is right there where you are, that I think that if you were to have a session with her, that would also help to release a lot that's in your chakras that are blocking things, that are keeping you out of balance right now, because you just straight up seriously need to relax at this point. And it's hard to relax when you got the very person that you should be bonded with going the opposite direction away from you. You know, that's kind of hard. That makes you tense. And so definitely I would suggest that you connect with A Soulful Touch Wellness. Sister Quet Nefer is a person, and definitely I think that will help in the process. But you have to then start to really meditate, pray, take that time out every day, no matter what it takes. You go off in the park and hide under a tree behind a rock. Don't worry about them other people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You got to settle your soul. And that's a serious thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
That is so prophetic, Queen Quet, because I find that when I reconnect with nature and take my walk and look at the trees and listen, no matter where you are, if you do that, it just relieves so much stress, and you can see a bigger picture. You can see a bigger picture than the immediate satisfaction that you want. So I agree with you 100%. Thank you so much, Queen, because that helps me too to remain focused on connecting myself with nature.
Oh yes, it makes a big difference.
And listen, I spent many days at the lakefront with snow and ice. I know it's not easy, I know you have to deal with, what's going on, at the moment in terms of the weather. But that was my sanctuary. The lakefront, my sanctuary. And when I could, I rode a bike. Riding a bike for me is exercise, but it's a spiritual exercise. I can get into my best prayer vibration riding a bike along that lakefront. And I would ride it from Howard to 57. It was where I did my most intensive thinking, cleansing, and connecting with spirit. So as Queen Quet said, by all means find a way to bring balance to your daily routine and stay within that realm of balance, and you'll be able to succeed in both your personal as well as your collegiate goals.
All right, appreciate it.
I guess we'll take just a quick break, and then we'll come back with more of Queen Quet and the Gullah Geechee Nation. I most certainly do appreciate each and every one of you in our listening audience. We invite you to call in at area code 347-215-8967, 347-215-8967, with your questions, comments, or requests, and we will be more than happy to assist you. And by all means, ask what you can do to be a part of, to contribute to support Gullah Geechee Nation. All is truly and indeed a blessing. Ashe.
Papa loko mwemla hagoe, Papa loko mwemla uyagoe, Papa loko mwemla. Brena si bade bolen si breno batala vraiment. Si ni beau faire pour nous, là, bon Dieu va aider nous. Papa loko mwemla hagoe. Papa,
Aye Bobo. That is a Creole voodoo hymn to Papa Nu, Papa Loco, who is synchronized as the Father of Christ, or the Good Father who spares not the rod. Some say he's Moses. Others say he's Saint Joseph. Mm-hmm. And Saint Joseph is a major Maroon Mardi Gras Indian holiday here in New Orleans, Louisiana, which comes about a month after Mardi Gras this year. I believe it's on March 17th. Right now I'm still sewing and beading and preparing for Carnival, which is the black Mardi Gras, if you will. There's two separate, while at the same time, unified events that take place in New Orleans. And those who know understand that that's Carnival and then that's Mardi Gras. And Mardi Gras tends to be for the tourists. Mm-hmm. Carnival is for the community. It's where we mask. It's where we see skeletons. It's where we see Mardi Gras Indians. It's where we see Zulus. It's where we see dancing, drumming, and the more authentic rhythms, if you will, of the motherland. In Mardi Gras, and particularly the Zulu parade, which is probably the only quote-unquote black crew in Mardi Gras, though it's not a completely black crew. They're more mocking Zulu culture in terms of its recognition of the culture. Carnival tends to uplift, to remind, to imbue the goodness of our culture on the next generation, and a reminder to the present so-called adult generation. As I asked earlier in the show, and I was really looking forward to Noble Paul.
I'm here.
He's back.
How do we get people to actually move from just remembering into doing something? And why are we still seeing Queen Quet and other organizations and other individuals basically begging and pleading our people to not only recognize but to support these institutions? How do we move that forward?
The way how we move that forward, once again, when you say to go from a remembering, well, most of our people, they don't know how to remember because they've been spiritually blocked by religion. And what I mean by that, just like when I put up a post today dealing with Abraham and God and how he went to Kemet and how he went to Akkad and how he actually lied to the Pharaoh and to this other king about Sarah being his sister instead of being his wife. And remember, these guys, they dealt with Ma'at, which is dealing with truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality. So when things went down, it was like, look, man, we deal with the spiritual aspect of life, so why did you lie to us? You thought we were going to do this, give you this assumption of this cruel thought. So now what's basically going on is that we have a lot of people who actually use the Bible as a crutch instead of going within. And that's one thing that actually got me put out of the church because, like I said, I've been through various orders, spiritual orders and everything. And when it came through and I asked the minister a question, he couldn't answer the question. So he asked the usher member and sort me out of the church. So even just like when Queen Quet was down here in 2011, we went to the Golden Feather restaurant, and when we went out there to Donaldsonville, the people didn't even much know what way it was to east, and I pointed towards the east, and Queen Quet was like, "You sure, Brother Pop?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and that was the east, because I know how to deal with north, south, east, and west. Everybody else, they was like clueless, just like what she said, who know how to do these things? I was brought up in the Baptist church, and I was a deacon at the age of 8. But also on the other side, dealing with the indigenous family, it was a whole other thing in the household. The outside, yeah, we dealt with Christianity and stuff, but inside, in the family, We knew that we was Choctaw, Chickasaw, Comanche, Washington. We knew this. So
right.
I had the best of both worlds. So I knew what was right and I knew what was wrong and I knew what was acceptable and not acceptable dealing with my ancestors. So when you deal with the ancestors, that would actually pave the way for us like we did once before. But everybody now is dealing with the commercialized Christianity and thinking they're having spirituality. Spirituality cannot be found in the book, because if that was the case, everybody that read it, the whole world would be better. You see? So that's what we have to move to, is dealing back with our roots, dealing with ourselves, dealing with our consciousness and subconsciousness and overconsciousness. You see? So dealing with that, even with the Mardi Gras Indians and even with the Zulu, you know, I spoke to a couple of brothers that saw in the Zulu. I said, what's the reason why that you paint your face black? They said, oh, that was one of the things to do to mock the Europeans. I said, no, do you know why the Europeans did it? They were like, yeah. I'm like, what did they do it for? Oh, they put on a black face just to do entertainment. I'm like, no. I said, they did the black face in order to mock your ancestors over there in Africa that was also brought over there to Spain dealing with the Moors. I said, so at the same time, if you already have dark, beautiful, melanated, rich skin, why you going to take black shoe polish and put it on your face for what reason?
Right.
Wow.
And actually, I was going to want to do a show called The Fallacies of Mardi Gras in Carnival. Because, see, they did Carnival to actually try to mimic Mardi Gras. That was dealing with the so-called Epiphany. That's why they did a king cake to say, oh, that was baby Jesus, you know, in a king cake. And then you had the day of Epiphany, and then 40 to 30 days later, you go into Lent, and then that's when you go up into Easter Sunday, we're dealing with the resurrection. But if you notice, dealing with the Mardi Gras cruise, when you see that they have the dukes and the kings in them, and they're riding on horses, they have masks over their face, looking like Klansmen. But most people don't know that the Klansmen actually came from out of the mafioso over there in Spain, which was actually the Black Brotherhood. So they don't even much know the history and the concept of Mardi Gras. They don't know what the purple, green, and gold is for. They don't know that's dealing with royalty. You know?
So
with the Mardi
but
Gras.
after you get beyond that, from a black perspective, once you get beyond that, you still connect back to the masquerades. And the masquerades were going on in Africa before Carnival, before Mardi Gras.
Before John
and what separates my tribe from the other quote-unquote Indians is we are maroon. And the maroon history has traditionally been kept out of the equation altogether. You've sort of been forced to choose one thing or the other, while still, as Noah Paul said, still trying to confuse the history, still trying to rewrite the story. So I think it's very easy for us to get caught up in the political aspects, you know, of what's going on. So I think it's more important than not that we educate and re-educate within our community about the root. Without the root, the whole tree dies. The tree, the fruit, everything dies. So it's important that we reaffirm that while still learning the information, while still gaining the history.
Yes. So, you know, and that's why, but also even down here in New Orleans, David Montana, who is actually a nephew of Tootie Montana, who is also related to my cousin, which is his granddaughter. He's actually going to be opening up a Mardi Gras Indian warehouse where he's going to have his suit stored up at, and he wants me to be one of the informationalists in the business, since I know the indigenous and aboriginal culture and history. So hopefully in a few more years or a few more months that they'll have this up and running, because it's needed, and that would actually help the children to know their culture, and that's where they wouldn't be acting in such a savage manner with picking up guns and shooting one another. So now, if they put that thread and needle in their hand and sew, that's how we battle on Mardi Gras. You know, once we sew up, that's it. Once you look pretty, you look pretty.
Mhm. Mhm. You know, it's interesting when y'all are talking now about the masking and these different representations of it, because when we took the Gullah Geechee Nation International Music and Movement Festival down to the Bahamas, of course, we were focused on the Jonkanu. And, you know, that's the same terminology that's used for the masking when it was done here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, largely in the North Carolina part of the Gullah Geechee Nation. It took on Jonkanu. And just like y'all are saying, a lot of people never understood where the real history came from, that it started off with Africans in the first place before Africans ever got enslaved, and that later on it became this thing of, okay, well, we get to do this time of year to mock those who enslave us, was the way that they did it with the Jonkanu. And then later to flip it back around where you have it, you know, all these different names that we're using for it still be all in different areas of the African diaspora, but because of some, you know, for lack of a better term, bastardization of it, because people started to commercialize it, that a lot of our people have no idea what the real roots and what the real history of it is supposed to be. And just like Brother Divine Prince has mentioned, so the Maroon culture and the Maroon tradition that has to do with actually guerrilla warfare and why one might mask and dress a certain way to camouflage yourself even in the midst of a place that can be hard against you, is not talked about, is not seen. And in the Caribbean, a lot of this stuff has become, you know, just a time to dance and wind down and things like that there in the street. And just like even now, when y'all talk about St. Joseph, we don't hear about that on the East Coast. All we hear about is Mardi Gras. Okay? We don't hear about nothing else. And so the thing is once again, when this whole conversation started about how do you get our people to be active, how do you get them to be involved? Well, there are some things out here that they don't know to get involved in because they don't even know the history of it, and they don't know that it had nothing to do with them as an African person because it's been so camouflaged and commercialized.
And yes, Queen Quet, and you're absolutely right, because that's why you had the smiley face and the crying face, because it was dealing with both sides. You were dressed all happy, and that's where the term clown comes from, because the clown was the one who actually was the hit man.
I think based on what I've heard so far from everybody, it's a relearning, a reteaching of some of the things that people have forgotten. And I think that we have actually have a blueprint for that based on what we are doing in the Gullah Geechee Nation with workshops and, you know, having events that focus primarily on who people are and what they need to do in order to build their communities.
Yes.
So, you know, and I think that economics is very important in the Gullah Geechee Nation and all over for black people. And so that's one way that we need to find a way that we can reconnect so that we can actually have a block of people that really need to put things together so that when Queen Quet has to travel, and she's traveling for everybody, you know, we can have that funds there. Or when you have to go somewhere or come to us, we could say, okay, we got this money to come. That's one of the things that we as a people, we can do that because we are consumers right now. We spend a lot of money on things that's not benefiting our communities. So I say we need to pool together our resources, and especially the financial ones.
Absolutely. And Elder Town, on that note, you know, Brother Divine Prince mentioned earlier to the listeners, to the callers, that they could call in and ask how they can help. And I don't know that anybody has done that just yet. They might be on the line waiting. But I can tell you now, before they even ring the phone, if they haven't rang it, that, you know, we have a number of events and activities every year, all year long, for the Gullah Geechee Nation. And as the brother from Chicago mentioned earlier, he watches Gullah Geechee TV, Nation News. We have Gullah Geechee Rhythm Radio. These things don't happen for free. They're not free. Folks who contribute to the work They contribute by becoming members of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, and that membership is open to anybody in the world that wants to support keeping the Gullah Geechee history, heritage, and culture alive. They can donate, those who want their tax write-off. They can donate to the Gullah Geechee Angel Network, which is our official 501c3 for the Gullah Geechee Nation. And both of these entities, one is grassroots and one is nonprofit, we work hand in hand all year long. We work every day together. It's not about competition. It's about collective consciousness. It's about collective resources and being able to continue to sustain our community. The whole time I've been on this call, I've been getting emails from a lot of our Anglo partners that are saying, Queen Quet, yes, we want you to be able to go to this conference or that one. We're going to pay for it. We're going to pay the $400 registration because we feel you're the person that needs to be there to speak up on these issues. You know, and these are things that they have a budget to do. It doesn't mean our community doesn't have the budget. It's about where do we put our money. We need to learn to put our money where our mouths are. So, like this month, we are having next week on January the 30th, anybody who is in the Gullah Geechee Nation area, please come join us. St. Helena Island, we have a brand new state-of-the-art library that is also a community gathering space on my home island, St. Helena, and I'm going to be doing my first event there, which is celebrating the Gullah Geechee living legacy through Reflections of St. Helena Island. And so we're going to do that on January the 30th from 6 to 8. There's no fee to come in the door, but we are going to have a basket out, and we're going to pass that basket around. Eldertown is going to be having the 60s, the music, and the movement event on Guatemala Island and here in South Carolina, part of the Gullah Geechee Nation, on February the 23rd. I won't be there because I'll be in Washington, D.C., getting the Living Legacy Award from Asala on the same day at that same time. But we are going to be branching out in order to cover all the bases that we need to cover because we need to galvanize our people in general and get them to see any and everything that our community needs. We do have the resources for it, but we can't do it if you just one person trying to do it one place and somebody else is one person trying to do it somewhere else. We have to all come together as a collective unit, not just doing no Kwanzaa, but all year long, and say we're going to practice cooperative economics. We're going to practice collective work and responsibility. And so that's why I thought it was definitely a blessing that Divine Prince immediately said, you know, the airways here are always open to you at any time so that we can let the people know what's going on. And so definitely if folks want to contribute at any time, they can always go to GullahGeecheeNation.com. That's our blog. You can subscribe to it for free. You always see the events and things listed on there. You can then make contributions and email us. You can always Facebook us at Gullah Geechee Nation. We have a fan page there. If you keep up on there every day like Brother Noble Pod does, like Brother Divine Prince does, like we got almost 9,300 other fans that do, you will see when we're posting, here's an event, here's an activity. And you don't have to be coming to the event to give support. The event on February 23rd in Guatemala, you can still go and make a financial donation to it, even though you might not be able to be in South Carolina on that day. And so that says to us, you know, yes, we believe in what you're doing, and we believe that all us as black folk need to come together and we need to support one another. You know, Divine Prince has done that on numerous occasions. He even still saying, everybody teasing him, and Nola said he's going to end up riding that bicycle to get here to the Gullah Geechee Nation at some point. But whether he gets here physically or not, he always, as we say, my hand did it. He never shirks the responsibility of saying, well, I'm not in South Carolina, so I don't have to get no money. No, he'll say, how can I make a contribution? And due to technology, we can send a PayPal thing to him, and he can make a donation. And don't ever say you don't have nothing to give. We all have something to give. We all have something to contribute, and that's how our communities have been able to survive and thrive all these years. There would not have been all the communities that we could go on with all the wards down there in Louisiana. They would not have survived through the many types of different storms that we talk about if our people didn't come together and everybody bring in what they had and then let the family survive together. So that's what this is all really about. So definitely we do pray that folks who are listening, that you will become actively engaged, that you will support, that you will share the information, that you will repost things, and that you'll definitely put your money where your mouth is, because that, unfortunately, is something we all got to deal with in the world, is that money is something that is needed to make sure that your community is built up, blessed, and that you have the institutions in it that you need to have, and that the people can be healed and that they can survive. So definitely, we truly appreciate these airwaves and appreciate all that y'all are doing down where y'all are, but it takes all of us in the world to do what we can. Right, Other Town, cash your bucket where you are. Right?
That's right. Exactly right.
Can I make a comment real quick, Brother Divine?
Yes, please.
Yes, I would definitely go on. I visited before, but I would definitely become a member of the Gullah Nation and also make a donation. And I also like to say that, Brother Divine, what you're doing, what Sister Queen Quet is doing, and the other sister, I'm so sorry, sister, I didn't get your name, but what you all are doing.
Elder Carly Town.
Okay. All right, sister. What you all are doing, it's like this is the last vestige of our culture that's being preserved through what you all are doing. And I'd like to commend you all for what you're doing to keeping the tradition alive. I know it's a struggle. It's hard, especially when you're dealing with our people. But I'd like to commend you guys for doing an excellent job of keeping the culture alive. And definitely I will, like I said, go on our website, become a member of the Gullah Geechee Nation, and donate as much as I can to the cause.
I appreciate it. I just want to just give you one correction. The Gullah Geechee Nation is a nation, like other nations of the world. So we have citizens of the Gullah Geechee Nation. But now with the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, because it's an organization, we have members. And because the Gullah Geechee Angel Network is an organization, we have supporters and we have donors and we have contributors. So just so that people are really clear, because that's another dynamic that we got to discuss another day, that people don't understand and give the due respect to African nations like they do to Western nations.
Right.
But we are a nation like others, and so we have citizens of our nation, but we do have organizations within our nation that anybody in the world can become a member of. And my brother, since you've already said that you know that you have Gullah Geechee roots, that's something else that you have to reconnect to that birthright as a citizen of the Gullah Geechee Nation, and that's so critical. And I think that Divine Prince does a daily work. He talk about me daily. He daily makes sure that whatever is posted to help educate our people who are citizens that are scattered around the world definitely goes through all of his social media and other places that he can share the word with others, because it is critical when folks do what you just did and then go ahead and say, well, I know now. And as a statement goes, well, how to know better? I'm supposed to do better. So we thank you, brother, for wanting to do better and help us to do more, because the more of us that come together, the more we can do. So we appreciate you.
Yes.
Now, how do I go about doing that? Because I know you said reconnecting back to that Gullah Geechee ancestry. How do I go about doing that? Is it, becoming a member of the nation, the Gullah Geechee Nation?
Well, again, go to GullahGeecheeNation.com and then send in an email, because it's a whole process. But like I said to you earlier, that journey that you're going to need to take, I think that spiritual journey that you need to take is going to be your first step.
Okay, great. Appreciate it.
And Elder Town, I want to give you the opportunity to say your final words.
Well, my final words is, again, I would like to thank Queen Quet for her guidance, and thank you for having such a show to talk about who we are. And I would like to say that, I am very much on this journey and has been on a journey for a long time. And every time I move and take a step, it takes me closer and closer to the people I need to reach so that we can continue to do the work. And I appreciate you, Brother Prince. I appreciate you so much, because you're making it much easier for me and for all of us, because you're getting the word out to the masses.
Well, I'm humbled and honored in service. Is there anyone else who would like to say anything before we allow Queen Quet to close the show? Okay, Queen Quet, please feel free to move forward and bless us with our closing. And as always, I am humbled and honored in service to you, to the community, and feel free to use this medium and anything that I might have in service to the Gullah Geechee Nation.
Well, I truly appreciate you, and definitely, once again, as you always say, all is a blessing. So definitely, I believe that this Power Lunch has truly been a power-filled opportunity to really reconnect the family underneath what is a virtual oak tree here. And it is a blessing to even have the technology and the ability to use it. And so I definitely give thanks for that. And so that we know that we are ever connected and that there are these times that we need to just gather together, even if it was just for our brother that's up in Chicago, to get with his family for a minute and just sit down and be at peace and know that all that he's being directed toward is righteous and is right on point. And so definitely I'm praying continued blessings for all of our people everywhere, and that this be a time frame in which we all shift into positivity and we shift into action, because we've been sedentary for too long and it's time to get on up and do something. And so definitely it is that divinely ordered time, and it is that time of blessing that we must make some forward progress. And so I'm with Frederick Douglass when he says, my hopes were never brighter than now. And so definitely my hopes are as bright as the sun that shines and burns our souls in the summer and makes us this rich melanated people, as my brother Noble Pa said earlier. And so I'm still praying for the healing, the restoration of all of our people, that they know who we all to be and things like that. And then I know so then the cracky tall and things like that. When the cracky tea don't stand how Hunter to make go guard to make that children for be and things like that. So know who Hunter that children and Hunter think free. Hunter be free. And so we're so glady for this your program and things like that. And we're so glady that the power been in what we had to eat today, which were these spiritual words. Sometimes we need to turn the physical plates of food down and turn up the spiritual place of food. And so we definitely have had that chance to do that today, and it's a blessing. So I'm looking forward to all your listeners that connect with us on Facebook. I want to give you greetings from our Assembly of Representative member, Sister Glenda Simmons-Jenkins, who's been listening to the show and who's been adding comments on your wall. And I definitely want you to know that we are looking forward to you shouting right here, since we've already shouted right there in Congo Square. So definitely peace and blessings to you, and thank you for this opportunity.
Get what's mine. Now I know that the chosen are few. There's no mountain I can climb, though the valley is so wide. I'll be always driving consciously through. So someday I'll find somewhere I can be free. Watch over me, protect us from our enemies, monsters rise and Pharisees. Jah be the shield on my right hand, Emmanuel watch over me, so you know that I will always be serving His majesty. There is no shortcut to this road. Fall in line. Oh, matter what evil that whispers say in my mind, keep on praying, it's for sure. You can open Zion door, where life abides forevermore. Shall be the shield on my right hand, Marcos watch over me, protect us from our enemies, and cause the skies and fire seas. Shall be the shield on my right hand.